Hi, thanks for joining me. I assume you're up for working on another etude from the Developed Sight Reading book. This is number 19. And at this point, we've been into mixed meters for a while, and there's certainly more of that going on here. I'll go ahead and play it for you. And as usual, if you have the music, you can follow along and see if it makes sense. And if not, go through the process, just as I and so many others have, of actually learning the music. Here we go. Right at the beginning, this is called Andante, and that doesn't give you, in this case, it doesn't give you a specific tempo marking. So what I do is I look at the busiest part of the music. In this case, you have some sixteenths. Da, 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 da. Okay. So I'm looking for something that's like a relaxed walking tempo. It's not dragging, it's not dawdling, it's not in a hurry, it's not intentionally trying to get someplace. It's simply enjoying the flow. That's Andante to me. So I'll look for the busiest part and see if that's the feel I can get. Well, now let's see if I can maintain it all the way through. I'm a rusher. You may be a rusher or a dragger. Rushers are much more common than draggers. But either way, we have our own natural tendencies, and you have to kind of let the music cure you of that if that's at all possible. If you can't do it any other way, use a metronome. Well, that was a little rough. Sorry about that. Again, getting to that time in the day when I'm losing my concentration. Let's see here. Okay, a few details. Now, what goofed me up, and the reason why I made a mistake is because I saw a note that my ear heard didn't make any sense. And you're going to find that a lot in these etudes. If you've been practicing them, working on them at all, then you already know that. Hopefully you've noticed it, because they're written both in terms of how he uses accidentals, mixing sharps and flats, a very odd practice, putting your ear in a particular key and then suddenly switching to another key without warning. It doesn't make sense to your ear. So this is where the developed sight reading aspect comes in. So there are a couple of spots like that, and a couple of them trip me up. The third line, I'm just going to play the interval relationship so you can hear it. This is the end of the first bar in the third line. Now, why is that an E sharp? Because he puts an E sharp in the first beat of the bar on one of the sixteenths. So, and that, according to the rule, unless you're told otherwise, that accidental carries through the bar. There's a fair amount of contemporary music where you only play the accidentals for each individual note, and they don't carry through the bar. But in traditional music, they do. So that could easily trip you up. What's another thing? Oh yeah, there's a little notation thing that I think is odd. but it happens a lot in this book. And I think these guys were actually wise to what we now call brain science. In other words, Mr. Voisin and Mr. Dufresne were recognizing in themselves when their brains were being tricked and falling into those same kind of little pitfalls over and over again. And they said, we got to compose some stuff that actually creates those problems for people so they'll be able to recognize them and solve them ahead of time, not be taken by surprise so much. So I think that's kind of the rationale for the book. I could be wrong, but that's the way it seems to me. So what's the next spot? Oh yeah, fourth line. And it's a very, very simple thing. It might not bother you at all, but it's specifically notated. In the third bar of that line, you have a 16th rest, then an 8th note tied to the next 8th note. Now, that looks complicated because it's fussy. You got a 16th note, a 16th rest, and it's busy. You could easily put a staccato dot. We have written 2 8th notes. And so that's just a further distraction visually. It's not a big deal. Like I said, it might not bother you at all. When I see something like that, I tend to believe that the composer had something very specific in mind. Otherwise, he just would have written a separated note, a staccato note, which would make it much easier to read. So in this case, whenever I see a note, a short note with a short rest after it, I'm assuming that they want me to play a full value note. So instead of going da, da, ta, ta, I go ta, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, da, dee, da, dee, da. And that's specific. See, that's precise. And that's what I assume. But visually, it could definitely distract you as you're going through. There's another weird spot, third line from the bottom. Third bar of the third line from the bottom, where it says forte in that bar. There's a G flat at the beginning of the bar and an F sharp at the end of the bar. And of course, you know, and you probably weren't bothered by it, it sounds like the same note. It's an enharmonic note. Sounds the same. It doesn't matter how you notate it. F sharp and G flat sound the same. Now there are theories about, they're different by this many microtones and blah, blah, blah. And I understand the musical value of that. That's a little bit of a more esoteric topic that we don't need to discuss right now. It's interesting, but in this case, you're probably going to be playing the same note unless the harmonic context has changed, which we can't tell what the harmonic context is exactly. So you're going to assume G flat and F sharp are the same note. At the end, there's a very tricky thing, and let me go ahead and play some of that for you and see if I can maybe do it a little bit better this time. I'm going to start kind of in the middle of the piece. This is the offbeat passage that is the bar before the fourth line. I should probably have taken a look at this before I played it, but here we go. So at the end, when I've given this to students, I've had very few people that played it with confidence at the end. And all you're doing is just sustaining a note. That's the problem. You'll see in the orchestra library parts of a lot of great orchestras, I've witnessed this, you look at those parts and you'll see a lot of markings in the parts, and that's good. This is for people who've played them throughout history, decades or longer. The music has been used by different people as they've come through, and you'll see the same kind of markings. And here I would put, for myself, if I goofed it up, I'm reminding myself when I get to the end, it's ba-dee-da, da-dee, da-ga-dam. There's 3 beats there, or I can think of it, where am I on the bar? So I'm going dee, da, dee, da, da, dee, da, da, dam. Is that it? See, I need to know where I am. I need to know where I am in the bar. How many beats? And whatever makes it easier for you to do, That's what you should do. Now, for most people, they just count 1, 2, 3, ba-da-da. Okay, no, I got it. And after a while, you get used to the sound of it, and then you shouldn't be counting anymore when you're doing this. I think that's probably enough to work on today. I'm sure you've discovered and are discovering for yourselves other areas that might be challenging. And don't forget the details. You have staccato notes occasionally. You have accents occasionally. You have a lot of change in dynamics. I'm trying to demonstrate those for you as best I can in the moment. But in any case, be listening for the musical qualities, and also keep your ears open to those strange notes that don't make any sense. There's another one that you might have heard. He puts you in, according to the ear, he puts you in the key of F sharp. This is the pick up to the last bar in the third line from the bottom. So that sounded okay because I think I played it that way before, and you're used to it now. But if you realize, if you're going, it's kind of a modal scale, but it's mostly F sharp. And then all of a sudden, there's an A natural in there that doesn't probably sound right to you. Keep your ears open for that kind of stuff as you move forward. Okay, I hope you're enjoying some of this and getting a little bit of benefit out of it for yourselves. I'm enjoying going through these. It's been a long time since I played them, and it's quite refreshing to go back and recognize the value of them. So I hope you're finding value in it as well. Have a great day, enjoy your practice, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.